Well, we definitely are in Gatlinburg on a Saturday. Traffic is heavy. Don't know if this was the smartest thing to have done, but I think it's gonna be fine. Hey guys, it's Jeff from Offseason in the South. Today we're talking about ways that you can avoid the crowds while finding solitude in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. All right, let's get up, let's get moving, let's do this. Going to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and avoiding a crowd is kind of like finding a needle in a haystack. It's difficult, but it's not impossible. And today we're going to talk about 4 tips that will help you to avoid the crowd while you're in the Smoky Mountains National Park. All right, here's tip number 1. Be willing to go during the off season. Be willing to go during the off season. The Smoky Mountains National Park has 2 peak seasons. There is that period from June 15th to approximately August 15th. That would comprise the summer months. That's one peak season. And then there's October. And that's the second peak season. Those are the times when, during those times, the park is the busiest. Summer and fall. Kids are out of school. Families are taking vacation. And in October, everyone's coming to view the leaves. But if you're willing to go in a time other than that peak season, then you're less likely to run into the crowds. January is the least busy month of the entire year. It's an opportunity for you to enjoy the park with less crowds. It's an opportunity for you to go and view the waterfalls without rubbing elbows with everyone. Clingman's Dome and Laurel Falls and Newfound Gap are going to open up to you if you're willing to go in the off season. Now, granted, not everyone has an opportunity to go during that time. Sometimes it just doesn't work out in your schedule. But if you can, go during the off season to avoid the crowds. All right? Vicki and I like to start the year off with a trip to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. When we do so, we find less people. If it works in your schedule, and it may not, but if it works in your schedule, go during the off season. All right, are you ready for tip number 2? The second way that you can go to the Smokies and avoid a crowd is to go on an off day. It's simple. You go on an off day. You plan your visits so that they coincide with a weekday as opposed to a weekend. The weekends are the busiest, starting Friday about lunchtime until Sunday about 3 o'clock. Those are the busiest times during the park. When we are visiting in Pigeon Forge in Gatlinburg, we typically spend the weekend doing activities in town. Going to the shows, going shopping, walking through Gatlinburg, and we reserve our visit to the park for the weekday. I know a lot of people are not able to go a whole week, and so you have to go on the weekend. If you go on the weekend, go early or go late afternoon, evening to visit those hot spots, those popular areas.
So, this is not a bear jam. There's a place called Rainbow Falls. We've never been there. We want to go there, but this is the reason why we haven't been there. All these people Cars line all up and down the side of the road walking to Rainbow Falls. This is insane.
But there's a third way to avoid crowds. And I've already alluded to it. You go during an off time. You either go early in the morning or you go late in the evening. Now, remember this. Most of the roads in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park are open 24 hours a day. That is weather permitting. They don't close. They don't have a gate. There's no entrance fee. So that means that you can travel in the park basically anytime you choose. Now, I'm aware that Cades Cove is the exception to that rule. You know, Cades Cove opens in the morning and it closes in sunset. Most people who tour the park do so from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So you avoid those hours in the park. Go prior to 10 a.m. Go after 6 p.m. If you go early or late in the evening, you'll have a better chance to see wildlife. The bears, the elk, the deer, turkeys, all of those things are more apt to be viewed early in the morning and late in the evening. So that's an advantage to getting up and going during an off time. The popular spots, places like Clingman's Dome and Laurel Falls, less likely to be crowded. I remember one time we went to Laurel Falls and we got there early. We planned it and got there early, and we were like the third car in the parking lot. So if you decide to go during an off time, you have a better chance to see the wildlife. Popular spots are less crowded, and you might even get to catch a glorious sunrise or a magnificent sunset. That's why you should go during an off time. Well, guys, we're talking about ways that you can avoid crowds in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. I know it's difficult. I know it's challenging. I know it can be frustrating. I know you can get flustered. Trust me, I have. Just ask Vicky. But there's a fourth way or a fourth tip to keep in mind if you want to avoid the crowds. You can go on the off-beaten path. Choose the off-beaten path. In other words, be willing to go to places that are less popular. There are many lesser known and lesser used places in the park that provide fantastic views, wonderful waterfalls, glorious vistas, if you're willing to discover them. These places are just waiting to be discovered. You know, Cades Cove and the Newfound Gap Road are two of the most popular spots in the park. Cades Cove alone has over 2 million visitors itself. Everybody wants to see those places. Everybody wants to go to Laurel Falls, you know, the most popular waterfall in the park. And if you've ever been, you know why. But there are some lesser used places that are just as beautiful and are waiting for you to check out. Some lesser known places or lesser used places include Abrams Creek and Balsam Mountain. Go to the Cosby area of the park. Just a little drive from Greenbrier. Go to the Cosby area of the park. It's a great little area. You'll find some good trails. There's a wonderful hike up to Henwallow Falls. Vicki and I did that a couple months back, and it was great. We were there virtually by ourselves. The Greenbrier area of the park just outside of Gatlinburg is like an overlooked gem. The Foothills Parkway is another resource you can go. There are several quiet walkways along the Newfound Gap Road. Go over to the Tremont area. Oh, wonderful hiking in the Tremont area. There's a creek that you can walk along. Go up Middle Prong Trail. Great area to be in. And by all means, don't forget about the North Carolina side of the park. The park isn't just Tennessee. There's a North Carolina side as well. Over in the Deep Creek area on the North Carolina side, close to Bryson City, you'll find Junie Wank Falls. Great little loop hike there. In fact, there's 3 waterfalls there, so close together. So wherever you go and whenever you go, my advice to you is simply do your homework. Know where you want to go before you get to the park. There are a number of resources that you can use to plan your trip. There are a number of books that you can use in planning your trip. This is a great resource, Hiking Trails of the Smoky Mountains. Wonderful little book. You can throw it in your backpack. It comes with a trail map as well. And you can pick it up at any visitor center. You can pick it up at any of the camping stores in town as well. Utilize the visitor centers. Sugarlands, Akalifty. You'll find park rangers and volunteers who are waiting to assist you in planning your trip. Those are people who know where to go to avoid crowds. Just ask them. Be sure and pick up, pamphlets. You can get pamphlets about day hikes and auto touring, the Laurel Falls itself. You get all kinds of information booklets there at the visitor centers. Also, let me encourage you to check out the website that the Smoky Mountains National Park has. Hey, don't forget about Facebook groups also. There are several that I belong to that are great when it comes to planning my trips. Hiking the Smokies is one group. Great Smoky Mountains National Park Community is another group. And we also like Cades Cove in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. The Smoky Mountains, our second home, that's a good one. Cades Cove in the Smoky Mountain area, that's another great one. These are some groups that we belong to in Facebook that help us in our planning. The point is, plan your trip. If you'll take a moment or two to actually plan out your trip, you will probably avoid some frustration. Keep in mind when you go to the park and you do everything you can to avoid crowds. You plan, you go early, you go late, go weekday. Sometimes you're still going to run into a crowd. Don't get frustrated. Don't get flustered. Remember why you're there. You're there to find solitude. You're there to enjoy the beautiful streams, the glorious sunrises and magnificent sunsets. You're there to look out across the valley, look up and see the chimney tops, look across the valley, look down and see all the glorious trees in their splendor during October. You're there to see the wildlife in their natural habitat. Keep in mind why you are there. If you follow the tips that I gave you today, your next trip to the Great Smoky Mountains might be your best trip. Hey guys, if you want to receive more videos like this one, then let me encourage you to subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell. And remember, as we say here at As Seen in the South, life is a journey. Choose it well and enjoy the ride. See you next time.